stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Greg J.
Here.
Larry Fiddler.
Here.
Gary Bennington.
Here.
Rick Deerwester.
Here.
And Cindy Holland is not going to be able to make it this evening.
Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
I have a few. First of all, if you haven't already turned your mic on, if you could please do so. Secondly, Bob Anderson dropped off a proposed speed limit change to look at, and then with the help of Susie Bass, I have a few things to sign off on, if we could.
A few what?
Things to sign off on, like from the claims and transfers that we didn't do
Okay.
last meeting last week. Though I've got a couple of them to go over for this one.
Yes. I was going to say, is it possible to kind of look at that? Because there's
This one?
probably, well, the
Or
claims
the-
and transfers, there's probably one on there that is currently pending that we need to double check. My apologies. Just want to make sure.
Oh, and then if we could also add just a quick update to Keystone on,
There was a
Sure.
payment to,
The one specific line item you're looking for?
yes, and I don't believe it's on there. I've been in contact with Ms. Galloway's attorney, so we'll need to figure out that. I don't believe it's in there. Just one more glance through this here to confirm that. My apologies, counsel. A lot of items on this here, so.
so yeah, that's about 6 weeks worth.
That's good.
Are these through today?
Okay, so it would be, here it is. This, so for the time being, items, here, I'll set this up here. Well, whatever. These three items will need to
It's two.
be excluded.
Just two.
I think it's just those two. Yes, it's
Just
just those
these
two.
two.
So items, 408.
408.
There we go,
Um,
now you're in there.
My recommendation at this time, council, would be to approve the payroll. And I would encourage you each, and if we need to take the time, if you want to look through those. Generally, with the payroll documents, we You know, we try to get those in advance. I know this isn't Sam or Susie. They're trying to play catch up as well with everything, but I want you guys to have the opportunity to review those before you approve them. But specifically in the, I think it was the wastewater fund, the distribution of, or the itemized number 408, I'm gonna ask that you not approve that until I further communicate with Cheryl's attorney, Mr. Young. We've been in dialogue, and I'd like to consult with you before you approve that, appropriation.
Is there one payroll or two?
So in the with Keystone moving forward, they will all be in one packet.
Oh, or more than one
Yes,
pay period though?
yes.
Okay.
You have these totaled up already, Sam?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It should be highlighted on the front and also
Yep.
is highlighted as where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And to answer your question, the invoice portion, like just the invoice part is through last Tuesday. So it's basically everything prior to what I've put in.
It's up to date, 2 days, to the day, or?
Through, last Tuesday, that was everything that went in prior to my, so it would have been through the 12th.
Yeah,
Yeah,
5/12.
Yeah, through the 12th.
We have a citizen just requesting that everyone speak up just a little bit, so the video can hear you.
Okay, so the general we're going to approve other than
The 408.
the 408, and that brings a total to 231, 280 and 12 cents.
And that would be minus item
Line 408.
408.
408. Yep.
And we're gonna discuss 408 later?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm getting some information from Mr. Young's, and hopefully we can move forward with that relatively soon.
What was that number again, Larry?
The total number for the general fund is $231,280.12.
Oh, okay.
Do I have a motion to approve that?
I'll make a motion.
And we can't sign this, can we?
That document,
The one with 408?
that is correct. So we'll have to revise that front page, but we can go ahead and approve the,
Correct.
yeah.
Right. Do I have a motion to approve this?
Gary.
I think
Gary
we got-
Spector first.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
second.
Alrighty, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Gary Bennington,
Aye.
Rick Deerwester, Greg J,
Aye.
Larry Fiddler.
Aye,
Can we see that back here?
sure.
Thank you.
I had some additional things to request on the agenda. After Sam had finished, there were just a few things that had come up between the time that we made the agenda and today that I would recommend that the council review. The first is, Bill Mankin is, as you know, working on the train depot. There's been some changes to his estimate for some of the work. So I wanted to have that on the agenda. In addition,
Is that in addition to the A and B about the train depot?
Yeah, got additional damage and shed on
yes, the shed, and there's also an issue, or not really an issue, but there's some information regarding the installation of new doors on the train depot, and he would like some guidance from the council regarding it.
Is that on the bid? Original bid?
Yes, but it's more of in the design of the doors. Yeah, and I can
Yeah.
tell you more about that here in just a
Yeah,
moment.
let's open that up for discussion, cause I was over there with Bill today and looked at it.
Okay, good,
So-
good. In addition, there were some items that I would request, the council approve. One being, a financial analysis on the town's accounts and the funds that we currently have. That would be performed by Janet. She works with Miss Bass. She would do, basically an overview of what accounts the town currently has and give us an idea as to where we're at financially for the year. That's gonna be very helpful. In the past few months, it's been kind of ambiguous.
Right.
So having that independent person, and we can talk about that more here soon.
You have a cost on that yet?
I do not.
Okay.
Actually, Miss Bass might be able to give us an estimate since she's here. And then, approval for payment on a few items. One was the blowers that were installed on the treatment plant.
On the page.
Now that we're getting all of that resolved, hopefully we can get that, and I don't know if it was in,
It was not, because of the large amount, I wanted to clarify it first.
certainly. That was $38,950. Those blowers have been installed already,
Yeah, that was just for one blower.
or, okay, just one. So that was, that's already been done, but that was, we've been kind of kicking that can down the road, and now that Ms. Galloway is no longer with us, I think she was, for some reason, she hadn't issued that payment yet, so we'll need to make sure that we get that payment out. And then there were two other items that I'd like the council's review on. Normally this would be brought to you by the town manager, but this information was provided to me by Bill White of UMAC. And so I would like the council to review that, and if not, make a decision this evening, consider it for our next meeting. And that's it, nothing further.
Okay. I did miss a addition and deletions to the agenda for approval. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I make a motion.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Greg J,
Aye.
Gary Bennington, Rick Deerwester,
Aye.
Larry Fiddler. Okay.
Okay, water. $92,000, $867.49. It was $92,867.49. Do I have approval?
I'll motion, we pay it.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Gary Bennington,
Aye.
Rick Deerwester,
Aye.
Greg J,
Aye.
Larry Fiddler.
Aye. Wastewater, $98,407.58. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Gary Bennington,
Aye.
Rick Deerwester,
Aye.
Greg J,
Aye.
Larry Fiddler.
Aye. Building inspector. Can we go ahead with that?
Sure, I thought
Okay.
that'd just be enough opportunity for the council to update the community on the
Okay.
status of the building inspector.
Greg and I went to the commissioners meeting this morning. It was positive. They did have some questions. Nothing is going to happen until June 1st, which is their next regular meeting. But if anyone needs a building permit, you do have to go to the county to get it as of now. So all permits will be done through there until June
Permits and
1st.
inspections will be handled through Greencastle.
Correct.
Is there permits good for 1 year or 2?
Don't know for sure,
Don't know at this time.
but we will be following their rules. All
we
rules
won't
and
have-
fees will be followed per the county.
So we don't have them in this building anymore, right? We're taking them
We
out.
have nothing to do with building
Okay.
inspections and
Okay.
permitting at this point. It all is handled through
The
Greencastle.
county. Okay.
Will the town of Cloverdale have to do a resolution or a ordinance to transfer the building inspector's power and the implementation of the fees? Because the county fees are substantially different than what the town fees had previously been. And they've got them broke down in different manners. And also the fees that the county has for violations is quite substantial and is quite detailed as to what they can and can't do. And I'm not sure who enforces that, but that's part of it, as well as missed appointments or not being ready when you're called, they are called to do an inspection, and then you're not ready to have it inspected. Along with the fact that I plan on going to that meeting on June the 1st, but some of the setback requirements that the county may not be familiar with, but are applicable to the town of Cloverdale, and subdivisions within the town need to be adhered to and need to be enforced by them as well.
That's right. James?
I'm just gonna go off of what he was ending with. Since we're gonna be going under the county inspectors, are we going under the county zoning? Are we going under the county comprehensive plan?
Right now, we don't know, but we would like to stay under our own zoning
But how would we enforce it if we don't have the building inspector?
by working with them.
So they'll have
It's
to
gonna
know,
be a team effort.
so they'll have to know our zoning as well as the county zoning?
Well, I'm sure they already know our zoning.
I think at this point, it's premature to really get into any of this just yet, because
Oh, I don't think it is, cause if we're having, if
well,
the community came together and developed a comprehensive plan.
certainly,
This is business owners, landowners, homeowners, at school, all of us came together to put that comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is what's supposed to be driving our zoning and BZA. All that gets thrown out the window if we have to go underneath the county rules if we don't have a building inspector. So before we enter into something with the county, I think we need to know exactly what we're getting into.
well, we don't have
Not
to,
do it and then say, oh, this is what we
we don't
got.
have to specifically have a building inspector to enforce ordinances.
I
So,
don't think it's been finalized for the county to take over yet, has it?
No.
No, but I think we need to make sure what rules we're gonna need to follow, because the town came together to build that comprehensive plan, which drives our zoning, which drives our planning, which drives our subdivision ordinance. All that is done through this.
Mhm.
And if we're not gonna follow this because we go with the county, I don't think I wanna do that. Cause they might have a different plan for the county than what we have for Cloverdale.
certainly, those are all valid points. I think we just don't have any answers to those questions.
And I think we need to get those answers before we get into something.
Certainly, but nothing's been finalized at this point, so that's why we welcome the comments, but ultimately, there's still a lot of questions. That's why today, the council members went to the meeting to try to get questions answered, so. But that's great, and that's information I can just, I can consult with, Jim Inslee and see if we can get some better information regarding what the status of the zoning would be and the town's comprehensive plan, and, in the conversations that we've had, that's always been our primary concern, was to retain some of that, so.
Some of it, all of it.
Well, as much as we can, so. We don't know. And you're asking questions we just don't have answers to yet. But
You
we're
guys are
still,
supposed to be speaking for us, the community, and this is our voice.
right, which is what happened this morning, and which is what is gonna continue to happen over the next few weeks until something gets finalized.
Don?
Well, the zoning issue never was raised at the meeting this morning, and I don't think was raised previously. But it would be my opinion that within the corporate limits of the town of Cloverdale, that the zoning that is in place would stay in place, and it would not be altered by the county planning, which takes a much larger area of square miles of the entire county, whereas the town of Cloverdale has concerned themselves only with the properties within the corporate limits. And I would think that without doing some major changes in the whole system of planning and zoning, and by ordinances would have to be changed, et cetera, I think that would be a major undertaking that, I don't think was ever thought about or discussed at all.
It's been discussed within our unit here.
But not at the county meetings.
No.
So we're going under the county fee schedule, but going to be under our building code.
Not our total building code.
We're gonna-
Town of Cloverdale has been inspecting things that were not state code, were not county code, and we want to make it all the same as far as state codes and county codes will be followed, and that's all. Cloverdale will not have any separation of codes, but setbacks will have to be adhered to. And county's not used to working with setbacks, really. They've been doing Russellville.
Well, I think the county has some, but I think they're different than what we have in the
Well, I
town.
think each municipality has their set of guidelines for what we're doing, and I believe the building inspector and working with them, they're gonna work with us to enforce that we adhere to our guidelines also, not just theirs.
But I mean, as far as building inspector is concerned, what I see as a building inspector is someone who goes out and inspects a building that's being built, and they're gonna be taking that over.
Well, but the very first item on the building permit is for a building, is for the staking of the building. Staking that building on the property, and that is the determination of the setbacks, et cetera, as to where the building is going to be. So that's item number one.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the responsibility of the building inspector
Right, but I still think.
on that application form.
Right, I still feel that they will
They
adhere.
will adhere to
ours.
our guidelines as far as our setbacks, and we're gonna have a certain amount of control over it. We're not gonna fall flat under county guidelines.
Especially if ours is more strict than theirs. I think they would allow ours to go. Our restrictions on the setbacks might be more stringent than theirs. I think that they would go along with ours.
And they probably are. And some of the setbacks are already recorded in the plat, maps that are recorded at the courthouse. But that all has to be, enforced, so to speak, that the building inspector is more accustomed to dealing with more space and acreages as opposed to individual lots and platted subdivisions, I would think. Now, I could be wrong, but
Well, Daniel has been in continuous contact with Jim, and these issues that we're discussing tonight, I'm sure Daniel and Jim will be discussing immediately to come up with an agreement is what's going to work for both parties.
Well, and ultimately, at this point, we're just trying to ascertain whether the county is even interested in doing something like this. Did you understand what I said? I said, at this point, the town's trying to determine whether the county even wants to take over the building inspection. So it's very premature to think that we're gonna start working out details if they're not even interested yet. So we need to figure out if they even want that.
I think once we come to an agreement that they're interested in doing it for us, we will sit down and have a meeting with them as to what our needs are and how we wanna do it, and work with them together to come up with a solution.
At this point, like I said, we're just trying to figure out if they're even interested in taking on these responsibilities. So that's why the council members went to the meeting this morning, just trying to get more information. And apparently, it sounds like they still are considering things, so.
no, they haven't, they sure did not throw it out.
No.
Well, yeah, I don't think they've thrown it out yet, but all I'm saying is I think what they're doing is they're still reviewing documents.
I think once we come to that agreement, that's the first stage of this, is that they're interested. then we can work out the details. But, I mean, there's no details to work out yet because we haven't come to any kind of an agreement.
Okay.
Anything else? Council?
No,
All I can say is stay tuned. We're gonna work on it. So it's good that we know this information, and I will reach out to Jim Inslee myself and, get some of these questions answered, so.
Okay, number 6 is invoices. Is that,
So as I said earlier, with the help of Susie Bass, we're getting everything processed. What you approved earlier this evening gets us pretty well caught up. I did have an update with Haywoods. I spoke to him after our meeting, kind of just to figure out where we were at. Anyways, there is a lot of information left out of the Haywood information packet. He filled me in on a lot of things that had been kind of misinformed. Anyways, he wanted to, we worked it out where now we're both at a really good place and really ready to move forward. He did waive the late fees and the interest from before, which I believe there was 2 different bills. He said that if you needed him to sign something saying that it was waived or whatever, he could provide that. And other than that, we're just gonna move forward with invoices, with us covering the big one later. That's all I have for invoices.
okay?
Is there an invoice on that AIM? The AIM from, I get that newspaper every so often.
Yeah, Accelerate Indiana Municipalities.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think we have one each, like it's a pretty regular one. I know that I've seen,
Well, I just seen one that was for $1,600 and I can't see us keeping that subscription.
So that's what, I presented that information to you because it was sent to Cheryl and I. And since Cheryl didn't submit it, I went ahead and included that in your packets last week for you to review. That was their estimate in years past. I know that they were able to negotiate with them. I'm not sure if that's something the town would like to take on, membership with, it's Accelerate Indiana Municipalities. They advocate to the legislature for us. They offer trainings, and actually once the new clerk is appointed, we'll probably utilize some of their trainings for the clerk, getting him or her up to speed. But that was the estimate that they sent to Cheryl and I don't believe Cheryl brought that to your attention. So if you guys want to have conversation regarding that, now would be a good time.
The training, do you have any idea what that will cost?
So I don't. Each training generally differs in price. I spoke with Susie this morning, Susie Bass, and she said that they have actually canceled their annual clerk treasurer school on the 18th of June, so they will not be having it. They may have it remotely, but at this time I'm not aware of if they're changing that, so.
So we could look to Susie or her associate for training.
Yes, and that's another option, and actually, when I spoke with Susie this morning, specifically with like training, like clerk treasurer,
Right.
Susie indicated that her and Janet can do that themselves, so that might be a resource that we can utilize as opposed to AIM,
Right.
so.
So do we want to go ahead and make a vote on AIM, or do you want to
Well,
table it for now?
Depending on if you guys have any interest in it, if you don't feel like it's necessary for the town to participate, then, we wouldn't need any kind of motion.
I haven't seen much use for it really in the past myself.
Generally, it's helpful if you guys are being sent to trainings consistently. It can save you money on that. You know, they have people available if you have questions, as a resource. They do trainings, sounds like kind of what Janet and Susie do as well, so. You know, depending on the council's position on it, if you are not interested in pursuing, membership, then you don't need to take any action. If you'd like me to contact them and try to negotiate the price, I can do that. If you wanna give me a motion for that, or if you want to pursue being a member, then you would need a motion for it.
I'll give you a motion to negotiate with it, you get it down to $1,100, I'll go along with it.
Okay,
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Gary
Aye.
Bennington, Rick
Aye.
Deerwester,
Aye.
Greg Jake, Larry Fiddler.
Aye.
Okay, I'll work on that. Thank you. The only other invoice was that one from BL Anderson for the blower,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
and I would just, seek approval for that so that we can get that paid. It's probably getting to the point where it's gonna be past due here soon. And that was for
950.
38,950, yes.
What fund's that coming out of?
Wastewater.
Wastewater, all
Mm-hmm.
of it? Okay,
I'll make a motion to get it paid.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank
Aye.
you.
You still have some more on the train depot?
Yes, just in regards to the train depot, there were 3 items. The first was the shed. Bill Mencken indicated that the shed is in really poor condition and that really it just needs to be disposed of. State statute authorizes the town to dispose of worthless property. So if the council would like to dispose of that shed, I would just welcome a motion and approval.
Have any idea what was in the shed?
I don't.
The shed is currently secured, and we will need to gain access to it to see
Okay.
what's in there, if
What was
anything.
that? What was it?
The shed is currently secured with a padlock,
Oh, okay.
and nobody has a key for it.
We've got lots of keys from Wayne that we can go and test and see.
I might have a key for that.
Is there any issue with,
Do you, if you could check, if not, we'll just get a master key and open it.
is there an
We
issue
have-
with?
We have a tool that also opens.
That's why I said I could get a master key to open it.
I don't think so.
I think I have a few contacts.
I thought there were stipulations with the train depot, there's not with that shed, is there? I just,
No.
Yeah,
no,
okay.
No.
It's just an out parcel
Yeah,
building that's
right.
not anything historical, it's just
Right.
a,
okay.
How much more is that gonna be on the cost?
That alone, I don't believe any. I think that when we get to the change in the cost, I'll talk a little bit more about that, but, my understanding is that Bill's going to factor that into his estimate to the town. Which is right here.
I'll make a motion to have the shed destroyed or taken over to Greg's.
Actually, that's probably.
No, I'll make a motion to have the shed destroyed.
Okay.
In talking to Bill today, he said that he asked if we wanted the decking replaced as it is or do concrete, and he did present a concrete porches figure on there as opposed to doing the wood deck again.
That wouldn't put it back to historic though, with concrete.
Well, most of them did have concrete around them,
they had loading ramps and whatnot that were concrete.
yeah.
And looking at the shed today, I went over and met with Bill, and we did a walk around on it, and the wooden decks are in pretty rough condition, and the posts have been set into the ground rather than on concrete, so the post is all rotted out. And just doing a walk around to the building, the concrete would make more sense in future maintenance because we wouldn't have to do painting, and he's gonna put a proposal for powder coated metalwork for the railings. So doing it in concrete would cut down future maintenance. It'd be a permanent fix. The other thing we were looking at was, and this just came up again while we were walking around the building today, the way the grading is done on the property, it's as if the water is actually running into the crawl space of the building. And what we were looking at is the dirt is actually up over the venting that's in the venting under the building. And if we could go in and just scrape maybe 4 or 5 inches of dirt off and get the grade down below so that the water don't run away from the building rather than into it. So that was a couple of things we had looked at. And then the metal doors on it, removing those and putting it to period, correct doors. And I think he put all that in the proposal.
Well, we put all this money into it, what is the plan for that?
Right now, there's not a plan.
It's just to preserve the building exterior at this point.
It's coming out of the general fund?
Yes,
You don't have a historical preservation fund or anything like that?
not presently, no.
Expenditures we should be doing without knowing exactly where our budget's at?
Well, there was money set aside in the budget to
For
do the
this.
restoration. And Don, you probably know better than anyone, don't you, that when that was moved up there? Okay, maybe,
In the early sixties,
it was later than that, wasn't it?
no.
Before any traffic
Well,
lights were put in.
60, it was in the mid-60s,
When it was
I
moved up
believe.
north,
Yeah, when it was moved from down here.
it was later than that, because I was in town, and I didn't get here until 80.
Oh, was that late, you think?
1980?
Huh?
I was thinking 70s, but
I think that's more accurate.
I don't know,
Yeah.
any closer than that. But my biggest point is really the deck has not had anything done to it, has it? The
Oh.
deck has not had anything done to it since it was moved up there.
Other
Probably
than some,
painted.
other than some paint.
Right. Yeah,
And that's
Here,
been a
she
while.
should know.
yeah. She basically headed that up, I think.
She did.
But, just, it's lasted 40+ years. Let that make our decision as to whether we want concrete or not. I mean,
Concrete would be a lot more expensive.
Well, what he was explaining today, it's yes, there is an expense to it up front, but there's zero maintenance after that. If they do powder coated steel rails and concrete, it's not gonna have to be painted, like we do wood, it's not gonna, yeah,
If we don't know what we're going to be using it for, why put it in the extra cost?
it would make the building accessible for any use. Right now, there is no safe way to enter the building.
I know in the past, a few people from the library and I, and sure it was open to the public, I think you were actually there. It was mentioned to do something with the library as well.
Yeah, there's all kinds of
Specific, yeah.
ideas, it's just nothing's been, we haven't got far yet. The building is not usable at its current time.
So those documents that I handed you out there, that's just what was, given to Larry this morning from Bill Mankin. There's if the council wants to make those changes to the windows and to the posts on the exterior, the estimate was approximately $9,000 more. So it required an additional appropriation for those funds.
Would that be just a concrete pad for the wooden posts to go up, or would it?
No, it'd be a concrete pad with,
Concrete steps?
yes.
concrete steps, but a powder coated steel railing.
Could there be a ramp, make it handicap accessible?
It'll have to have
It'll
yes.
have to be ADA.
James?
You said this was in the general budget, what's the budgeting for this? You said this was already set aside in the general budget, what's the budgeting for this?
38 plus.
3,800?
38,000.
plus.
38,000.
This
What was budgeted was 50,000.
Yeah.
Did you see this, Rick?
Yeah, already have. Same.
So how much are the additions?
9,000.
Actually, the concrete is separate.
3,800, was it?
It's 5250, but you're gonna subtract out 3150.
So it's an additional, what, 2,000 roughly to do concrete versus wood?
2 to 3, yeah.
I believe that's correct, yes. Is that the way you take that?
I figured there was 47,000 plus.
3,150 to go from wood to concrete. So yeah, an additional $3,150 to go from wood to concrete.
What was the other 6,000 now?
That's a window changes, door
There's-
changes.
There's a windowsill that's completely rotted out, and the water is actually running in the bottom of the window into the building that needs to be taken out, and the sill needs to be replaced.
And there's actually two windows in there that,
Yeah, the one sill has been replaced, but the one is completely rotted out.
and apparently this just happened over the winter. He didn't notice it when he made the bid.
So it's degrading as time goes on, it's getting worse.
Do I have a motion to make those changes or not make those changes?
Well, we still don't want it to continue degrading in other areas. I'll make a motion that we go ahead and go with the concrete sills and the door, as he's got the proposal.
Did you want that to be wooden or concrete?
Concrete.
Concrete, oh yeah.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Abstain.
Okay,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Larry. Okay. Then in regards to the depot, Bill was seeking just a little bit of guidance from the council on a few items. The first was on the depot doors. Specifically, he was wondering if you wanted them to be fully wood without any kind of glass paneling in the door, or would you prefer that they be fully wood up to a certain point and then have glass in the door? And in those documents that Larry has, there are some examples of both. He just was trying to decide, you know, what you'd like to do, what the council would like to do in terms of the aesthetics of the building.
Right. For the main entrance door, he can do a period door with glass, which kind of makes sense.
It's a main door.
Right.
Yeah.
The main entrance door, and then the other doors could be solid. And it makes sense for the fact that if it's rented or somebody's in there and somebody walks up to the door, they can see who it is and go from there. But
Okay, and then he also is requesting, advice on the color of the depot. Obviously, he has to stay within certain historical guidelines, but I don't know if you have any preferences as to the color. The only resources that we have are that painting right there, which seems to show that it was almost like a grayish color. We have a very old photograph it's really difficult to tell much from it, so
We don't know why it went green.
I'm not yet really sure.
Has anyone looked through the old photos in the records room to see if they could find one?
Not that I'm,
I say I could try and find one if that's something that you'd like.
I'm gonna guesstimate that those old photos are gonna be black and white.
what's that?
There are several
Color
books.
in the door.
Well, I think he had the paint, I think he just was wanting to figure out the color scheme that the council would like. And that's not anything you have to decide tonight, just maybe something to think about.
But I'd like to think, I'd like, if everyone would agree to try to make it a period. But again, we don't, until we see a colored photo, maybe,
That was
just,
the original concept of it, put it back to historic.
right.
Good. I'm gonna look up that $38,000 estimate home and see what it did out there.
Is there any way he could go and remove some paint on some of the original
that's a thought.
fixtures and see if he can get original colors?
I'm not sure.
I would think he could strip off some paint and get down to one of the base colors and work off that.
If he could do that, maybe Sam, if you look at some photos, maybe
Yeah,
work it at
something
both
like that.
angles and see what we can come up with.
Those two top photos there,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure those are of the depot in its old location. And it looks like it was white at that
white,
time.
yeah.
That was kind
I
of a
don't
golden
think the
color.
railroads were very consistent on maintaining their properties back
Yeah.
then.
Right.
And they certainly haven't been in the later days, and they haven't had maintenance on a high issue with their properties throughout the entire country. I think a cream and a green is quite appropriate. And,
It does have a cream roof, which is steel,
Yeah,
and it may be hard to put a different color on it.
and a bright white with that would not be, I don't think would blend in very well at all. A cream color, then I think that's the way to go with that. It's an opinion.
Do we want to table that for now?
I think so.
Yeah, let's
Dan-
table the color
Yeah.
for now, we've got some time there.
Okay. Anything else on the depot?
Before we move on, the shed demo,
Mhm.
there was a motion made and that was all.
We didn't
Was that
table it.
getting tabled?
No, I don't think so.
I think Gary made the motion to have the shed down, the shed demoed,
Yeah.
and I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Gary Bennington,
Aye.
Rick Deerwester,
Aye.
Greg J,
Aye.
Larry Fiddler.
Aye.
So we'll get that taken down, and that actually might be something that the town employees may be able to handle.
Yeah.
So,
Well, he's gonna have a dumpster there, and he made the comment that he would just throw it in the dumpster.
Oh, yeah.
If, we went that route. I showed,
Larry, when's the startup date on the depot?
he's ready to start
He's
just.
working on it now, trying to move forward. I think he was trying to get a dumpster in there today.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. I showed speed limit for Logan Street, is that correct?
Yes.
New Street
Um,
and Logan, I think.
Yeah, Bob Anderson dropped these off today. Basically, his concern was with all of the extracurricular activities with the kids, and there's always seems to be something going on, whether it's a game or it's just a high activity zone. So he was just requesting that the speed limit be lowered, and then he put a map on there as well.
And I think we need to talk to Marshall Hibbler before we make a decision on this.
yes, and if I remember right, anything below 25 miles per hour would require a traffic study.
There's a stop sign north and south on Lafayette now, isn't there?
Yes.
They want to put one on the east side of Lockwell, on the east side there's Lockwell.
Yeah, no, there's already one there.
Four-way.
Yeah, it's forward, yeah.
Is that a four-way stop already?
Yes.
I believe the little red circles are just speed limit signs.
Oh, speed limit, okay.
Oh, okay.
If you recall, we discussed making U Drive one way, and we put that to the people who lived on there, and their wish was to leave it two-way. The street is quite narrow. There's no right of way to make that street wider, and it's probably something that needs to be looked at too, as far as width of that street concerning the 20-mile-an-hour speed zone.
Speed on the sign on the West Drive coming in, is that correct? Coming into it,
Right.
all the way around.
But I think we want to table this for now and
Yeah.
talk to Marshall about it.
Larry, I'm sorry to jump backwards at the invoices, but I think we missed an item. Just so you all know, the council, well, the information that we need to let you all know about is that because Cheryl is no longer working with the town, we don't have anyone who has the ability to sign checks for payment for invoices and for items like that. So my request in the short term would be that you authorize Larry to sign as the signatory on the banking accounts at First National Bank until we get our new clerk appointed. That way all these invoices and payments can be sent out. I have a resolution. It's Resolution 2020, and I'm not sure where we're at in the year in terms of how many resolutions have been approved thus far.
All we need is one signature?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's until the clerk, we'll get another clerk.
That's, yes.
I would like to suggest also, that now or in the future, that all checks be signed by two people. Good idea.
Okay.
I'm for that too.
Okay. I would say Greg J, or, you know, since he's vice president now.
So
Since he's one.
what we can,
What is up with you? He's been on you all night.
what we can do is, in the short term, have Larry, and then once the new clerk's appointed, then we can just do a draft resolution that would just authorize the council president, whoever is that year.
Yeah.
That way we don't have a specific person,
There you go.
and then that
Yep.
person can, in the future, whoever the president is.
Where there be more transparency for the council
Right.
on the clerk treasurer.
Right. I think that would be beneficial. It may create a little bit of a headache potentially but
Yeah.
at the same time, it should be very easy because whoever that person is, they're gonna be here in town. It's not like they have to drive a real far distance to go through this.
Yeah.
And usually the council president is already meeting with the clerk treasurer once a week. So that should be something that could just be handled on their, at their weekly meetings. So,
Is this your original, or do you have an original?
I have the original right here.
Okay,
Yep, that's just a copy of it.
okay. It's gonna be signed by everyone,
Okay.
and if you would, initial on the
Each
first
page.
page.
Okay.
So in order to change the signature cards at the bank, they have to have a corporate resolution, just authorizing that person to act as an agent for the town.
Intermediary.
Yes, yep. So,
Do I have a motion for this resolution?
I make a motion, we have an intermediary, signature designated for the checking accounts, on all checking accounts.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 okay.
And then just for my own clarity, that was for 2 signatures?
Only one right now.
Only one,
Yep.
okay, perfect.
And then in the future, we'll amend this to
Perfect.
include that. I'll pass that around for signatures, get that signed.
Now, the bank will not accept that until Cindy signs it. We've
Well,
got checks that need to be signed now.
Well, which include payroll for this Friday.
Yeah. We can take it to Cindy or have Cindy stop by and sign it.
yeah, what we'll do is we'll just leave it here, and I bet Cindy can stop in tomorrow morning.
Okay, perfect.
This is just kind of a temporary Band-Aid to get us to the point where we've got a new clerk appointed.
Have we heard anything from the Republican Party on that?
Not
Are
yet.
they taking nominations, or how's that?
I believe so. So the caucus process, they opened that up,
Name's not there?
and, they're accepting applications. So I would imagine that, you'd wanna contact the county chair,
Who's missing?
that is Bo Bear.
Who's missing?
And
I
he'll
am.
be able to provide you with more information about
Okay.
how to submit that information and how to get your name in that process. My understanding is that they'll look at, individuals who are, registered Republicans, since Ms. Galloway was a Republican. If they don't find any viable candidates from the Republican, applicants, they will open it up to everyone, so.
Do we have any say over it, or is that all just done by that party?
Yeah, it's all chosen through the party.
And if they do not have a caucus within 30 days, we get to choose. We can't appoint them.
So I would,
Thanks, Mr. Gary.
I would think that they'll probably have someone selected within 30 days, but I haven't heard anything from anybody at this point, so.
That's the Republican caucus, right?
That's correct,
Do
yes.
you have a question, sir?
I was just curious, 30 days from when you notified them, or 30 days?
It would be from May 11th, when
From May
Ms.
11th.
Galloway submitted her resignation.
Okay.
Yep, so hopefully 1st of June we'll have someone new.
Samantha, there is a place for you to sign.
Yeah, I have not. And Larry, I know you had received a letter from Ms. Galloway.
Just an email.
Oh, was it
yes.
an email?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think the original was left here, wasn't it, Samantha?
I'm sorry?
Was the original resignation letter left here?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
There was a lot on that desk.
But I do have it still.
In email,
Right,
okay. Will you forward that to me?
sure.
No, you don't have to do it right now, but when you get a chance, thank you.
You don't have it yet?
I have a copy, but it was a photograph. I didn't have it in.
PDF or something.
Yes.
Mine is a photograph also.
Oh, okay,
You'll get a copy.
don't have an original.
So,
yes.
See if you can locate the original.
I will try.
I'll send it out this evening, Gary.
Okay, is there anything else there?
No, thank you.
You wanna talk about Keystone?
Okay, so today Reagan from Keystone, along with Susie Bass, the independent consultant, and I all spent quite literally all day in the office getting everything updated. Moving forward, we have transferred it. We did all the taxes are good, everything is good, and we went ahead and printed off the first round of checks, which are ready to be signed. The first one will be a paper check, as it's kind of in between with the bank to do where they are able to send it out of the funds. So the first one will be paper. After that, pending that everything goes the way that we think it will, after that it will be direct deposit. But other than that, we're good to go.
Okay.
I have a question, I don't know if it's relevant or not, but, you know, ADP's gone, right?
Mhm.
If there would ever be a need to go back and check records in ADP, do we still have access to do that?
I'm not sure what access we really had in ADP as far as what we were able to access.
Well, I guess, would we be able to ask for records? Or, you know?
We would be,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yep, and I have spoken actually to Susie about that in the past.
Okay.
So yes, we would be able to get access to those.
Okay.
I'm saying we do have a big book of.
I've already been thinking about it, so I just thought I'd answer it for you. 'Cause
Thank
she-
you.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and Bill White,
Yes, I had received some information from Bill White, and I'll just give you, Bill White, so everyone knows, he works with UMAC. I just wanted to give you some notice that I'll be sending out some information to you for your review for our next meeting. And, there was a couple things that he was recommending that the town do. The first is, some annual maintenance on the plant. It looks like they look at the generators and, make sure that basically everything's operating as it should. The estimate that he gave me on that was for, $6,200 to have him come in and do annual maintenance. And like I said, I'm not asking for approval for that this evening, I'm just gonna give you a heads up to be watching in your email, because I'll submit that information to you here soon.
Daniel, I talked with Rich about this, last week. And, he thought that the maintenance had already been done at the water plant
Okay.
and the sewer plant and on this generator down here on Doe Creek Drive. He thought Williams came in and done that already this year. The other two generators were just turned up, last fall late, and they shouldn't need anything until spring. So if I get that confirmation from Rich, we really won't have to do this until spring.
Perfect. Okay.
Is he the one that did it in the past? UMAC doing that?
No, UMAC does not do generator, maintenance. The proposal that Bill presented was, from Hoosier Power,
Okay.
and I think it was Williams Brothers done it in the past. But I think these guys might be a little bit, less money for us to pay. But I do need confirmation from Rich on that, so I will, try and get that this week.
Okay.
And then it, actually, I will need approval on this. This was done on May 5th by Frankie Environmental Systems LLC. This gentleman did the yearly flow meter calibration at the Cloverdale wastewater plant. That, is, an invoice for $450. And that's again from Frankie Environmental Systems LLC. And that was for the flow meter calibration at the wastewater plant.
And I think those are done annually.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that Wayne had probably had this scheduled before his termination, and so that's why it sounds like he's already come and done it
Yes, I was at the plant when he,
when he was there.
Need a motion to get this paid then?
Yes, it would be, just a motion, and that invoice is for $450.
Okay. Well, I'll certainly make a motion to get this paid for
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Those are the only two things that I have. And just so you all know, this is definitely not generally something I handle with presenting this information, so once we get a little more stable and have potentially someone, coming in and doing this, and you won't have to listen to me try to pretend like I know what I'm talking about with the wastewater treatment plant, so.
Okay, is there anything else from the council?
Did you, Daniel, wanna talk about the financial analysis?
Oh, yes, but I thought, let's wait and
Okay.
we'll talk to Susie and Janet and get an estimate on
Okay.
what their fee is.
Right.
And then we can bring that to our next meeting.
So I think that's important, you know, to wrap our hands around the budget,
Yes.
figure out where we're at,
Yes, and interestingly, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, property taxes have been pushed back to July. So that affects the funding that we get. So that's something else we need to be mindful of. And so having that done, I think would be a real benefit for the town, at least so we understand exactly where we're at. And then once the new clerk treasurer starts, whoever that person is, they'll know exactly where they're coming in as well. So, and then hopefully, in conversations that I've had with Susie, and I haven't met Janet yet, but they have offered to come in and sit down with not just the council, but the new clerk treasurer, and really make this a joint team effort where we can learn about this process as a unit. And that way we can, learn this information and maybe relearn this information, but definitely it'll be good. The laws are always changing, so ultimately it'd be to our benefit at some point. So we can talk about that though further at our next meeting.
Okay.
James?
You brought up an interesting point. Property taxes have been moved back to July, which means you probably won't get that fund until August, September maybe. You've got a lot of bonds, if I remember correctly, a lot of your bonds are going to be due July 1st. You might want to go ahead and talk to your bond holders and see if they can push that date back so you don't incur any other additional fees.
That'd be interesting, they might be able to give some relief too, because of the COVID-19.
Yes.
A lot of government agencies and things like that are relieving folks of, normal deadlines, so to speak. So,
Just so you know too, that's a great
yeah,
point.
good point, good point.
There is a company out there called the Indiana Bond Bank, I think it's Indiana, IBB or Indiana Bond Bank. And what they'll do is they'll make short-term loans to municipalities who haven't received their, their tax money.
Revenue anticipation bonds.
Yes. And so ultimately, that's something that could be looked at further and investigated further, as potentially just a way to get us, as a bridge, to get us to the point where that revenue does flow in.
Yeah.
So, and we'll definitely consider that. Maybe we can get that on the agenda for our next meeting.
Sounds good.
I just have questions from Facebook if you would like me to go through those. Okay, there was a question, or there's actually a more of a statement. Inspectors should be under town control. Don't believe giving county control of our town. That's from Gary Bowler. Mark Wingler asked, you may have addressed this, but will our fee schedule on permits be maintained? In response, Bob Anderson said only in the preliminary phase, and we will go from there. So if you guys wanna, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to say.
I believe we're gonna fall under the county fee
Correct.
rates.
Renee Cambron asked, if the county were to start doing building inspections and permits, could that cause the town to become unincorporated?
No.
No, that would not happen. There's a question, what will the depot be used for after putting all the money into it?
It could be rented as office space, could be used for additional library to the county.
Yeah, it's the way the deed is drafted, is that it has to be used for charitable purposes. So as long as the town's compliant with the restrictions on the deed, potentially it could be used for any type of educational or philanthropic use. So I think at this point, once the depot is finally finished, then potentially it can be used to in any one of those uses. Bob Anderson asked, what if the town would want to move the building?
Deed restricts the movement of the building.
Can't be moved.
and just as a follow-up to that, Mr. Anderson, the deed does restrict the location of the depot, so it would have to stay where it is located. Gary Bowler asked, all the extra costs coming up, has there been others giving bids on this project? With this project, the bid had already been received. This was probably back in February, I'd say. So the contract's already been approved. The extra appropriation of funds is only at the point where, that's all that the council would be doing at this point. There was already a bid process, Mr. Bowler, and Mr. Mencken came in, I believe, as the lowest bid for his work with the depot. And that was, I believe, back in January or February of 2020. So at this point, we're just kind of finalizing an additional appropriation for some other repairs on the depot.
Can I follow up on that? On the
Sure.
depot, since we accepted the bid, I'm assuming there was a scope of work that we had to bid on. Is this not a major change in scope? Should it not be rebid?
Actually, he was a low bidder at the time, and he's also very fluent on restorations.
I'm just following up on the question.
Yeah.
There's a question, again, by Mr. Bowler, it should keep to the historical integrity. I think that's more not a question, more of a statement. John Berry asked, will we be getting copies of the bids for work at the park?
Yes, we will. Apparently, it was misplaced. The original bid was misplaced within this office. And I talked to Alyssa this afternoon, McKee, and she said that they were gonna get a copy of the original bid and it will be submitted at a later date.
Bob Anderson asks, how secure is the depot location from possible vandalism?
Secure as any other location.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there was a statement by Miss Wingler. She said Vera Hughes or Nora Petula would know the original color of the depot. That's a good resource we can potentially
Put
use.
it on hold, isn't it?
Yes. Okay, that's it. No other questions.
Okay, anything else from the audience? And
Yes, sir. The property right behind the appliance guy, I think is owned by Main Street. Is that right?
Yes,
It is?
yes.
Okay. Now, since the alley is blocked, probably 50 to 55, 60% of the time, all the trucks, cars, automobiles, pickups, they come through Main Street property. Because that's the only access they got to use as an alley. That property has got holes in it that is horrendous. Now, I don't know whether Main Street has to take care of them holes or whether the town can help or what, but that needs to be straightened up. And if you're gonna go ahead and let people use it as an alley instead of the alley that's there, it needs to be maintained. Know what, Don?
Can't change the alley. You can't relocate the alley just because that's where people
I
are.
said if they're gonna go ahead and use that property as an alley, it needs to be maintained.
it will be looked at and.
Okay, thank you.
Decision.
Main Street needs to block it off.
Well, amen.
They put up a fence, didn't they, or?
And the town needs to open up the alley.
Correct.
Yeah.
That will be addressed shortly.
It's back being addressed.
It has already been addressed.
Steve's working
Yeah.
on it.
I knew he was going to be.
I wrote it this afternoon and we discussed it, so.
The sidewalks in Lafayette said we had to dig those up because they can't get the ADA grade at 2%.
Correct, 2% fall.
Can that be achieved on that road? Because it drops quite a bit there.
There may have to be some dugout or something, I'm not exactly sure why.
We can't get a exception or anything like that,
Not from NDOT.
variance.
Well, that letter read, no exception.
NDOT said, no, it's gotta be ADA.
Okay? That's all. Call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.